so many different things to so many different people. If you are in a company and you are trying to improve your competitiveness, you can look inward and try and improve your internal business processes to be more competitive. If you have an externally focused role within a company, you're looking to expand market share, and that can improve your competitiveness and your ability to make greater profits and sell more of your products or services. But in a broader public policy context, competitiveness to me comes down to trying to find the right balance of government and business collaboration to ensure that companies and governments are willing to take risks. Because to me, the whole issue of competitiveness that we face in 2016 is a global imperative for jobs and growth. And the way that we're going to achieve greater job growth throughout the world, particularly in countries that are suffering from high levels of unemployment or have underemployed people, is to find ways to harness the risk-taking of companies in order to expand opportunities. If I had to choose one policy area to drive competitiveness in the United States, I think it would be to encourage a stronger public-private partnership across sectors so that you could actually begin to link up reforms in education and skill building with the rise in American manufacturing base and the innovations that are taking place in the services world. If you look at the disruptive technologies that have come online in the last few years with Uber or Lyft or Airbnb, a whole host of these new service offerings that need to be connected back to innovations underway in manufacturing and to helping students and young people see a path forward for them, going back to my main concern, which is job creation and growth. I think the most important thing governments can do to foster competitiveness is to regulate their economies with a very light touch. I think what we want to achieve is the freedom for innovators and entrepreneurs and businesses to expand and grow in the best possible way forward. Government can set out principles, but they do not need to have a heavy hand in regulating the economies. That has a chilling effect on entrepreneurs and innovation. The recently concluded Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement that the U.S. negotiated with 11 major economies in the Asia-Pacific region, accounting for some 40% of global trade, will certainly have an impact on competitiveness, not only of American firms, but of the firms from those 11 countries. This will give a big boost to innovation across the region. We already know that the Asia-Pacific region is growing much faster than the European continent. We know that companies and entrepreneurs are busy expanding relationships, and by having closer ties through these trade agreements, we will be able to see a rise in innovation and competitiveness, not only in manufacturing, but in services and new technologies as well. I think there's a great deal that the European Commission can learn from the countries that negotiated the TPP and the process that the 12 countries undertook to reach the final agreement. In particular, I think it's important that the Commission recognize that the TPP countries were willing to take tremendous risks to address closed sectors of their economies and open them, on the belief that open markets would promote trade, growth, and competitiveness. It was not easy for the Japanese, for example, to take steps to open up their auto or agricultural sector, even though the phase-out may take a number of years. Making that commitment to do so is to me parallel to what the Europeans need to do to open up their agricultural market and make changes in their regulatory environment to spur growth and innovation. I think that there can be a lot of cross-learning if we can bring the parties together and really discuss the need for the risk-taking that I believe is imperative if we're going to move ahead and become more competitive and bring about the jobs and growth that we need. International trade has changed fundamentally just in the last 20 years, let alone since 1948, when the GATT, the predecessor organization of the WTO, was founded. We have to find a way to adapt the organization so that the current needs of business can be addressed. How to deal with state-owned enterprises, for example. How to deal with cross-border data flow, which is fundamental to 21st century trade and investment for all countries. How to deal with the rule of law covering labor, the environment, sustainability. These issues are core to the ongoing growth and competitiveness of the global economy. Here in the United States, the business community is focused on the Trans-Pacific Partnership and the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership, the two agreements the U.S. has negotiated in the case of the TPP and is negotiating with Europe in the case of TTIP. This has often called into question whether the U.S. still values the World Trade Organization. From where I sit in Washington with my long career in trade and investment, I believe the WTO is going through a very serious period of reevaluation and transition. It has to become a leaner, meaner, more adaptive organization if it is going to meet the needs of global business. And the World Trade Organization, it needs to more than just think about beginning to address these issues, but find a way to move forward. Until it does, I firmly believe that countries are going to move into regional blocks, and the big challenge will be to integrate the regional blocks together so that you have common standards across the world. Otherwise, trade is going to suffer because of the various regulations they need to comply with, that the gains made in a certain regional agreement will be undercut by the complexity of complying with so many different regulations around the world. So to me, the WTO needs to take this time to reflect and come forward with a fresh approach to ensure that it becomes the place where the regional agreements can be brought together for the benefit of all countries.